Mama.
Welcome to the podcast, hablemos de lo nuevo. For the G's, by the G's, ¿qué pasa en el terreno? Vienen jugadores y se van, traiga lo nuevo, a huevo. Doesn't matter where you from, Salvador, Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua. Todo mi latino, come and listen for an hour. TikTok, que traemos lo que quiere, todo lo que pasa dentro y fuera de las redes. Really? You don't know what it is. Reportamos con la lupa what we see at the digs. En las buenas y en las malas yo diré la verdad. Si cometen un error o tienen habilidad, la calidad del rival cuando viene a jugar. Facts. Yo no me muerdo la lengua. Got love for the crest in the city I came from. Los campeones de campeones y con copas mi race. No empezamos el programa, soy la voz de LA One. Soy la voz de LA One. Love. Yeah.
Hello, hola, and buenas, and welcome back to another episode of La Cuna Galaxiana. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here over the holiday period. You guys know this podcast is always made with love for all you LA Galaxy fans, wherever you may be, celebrating the championship that was just had a couple of weeks back. And man, we're not done celebrating it, and it still doesn't feel real. And today, since you guys are here, we'll get you caught up with all the Galaxy news you might have missed in the past week. We'll look at the MLS schedule drop, LA Galaxy Team Awards, and the newest LA Galaxy players arriving in Los Angeles via the MLS Super Draft. We'll also examine the big news of the week, MLS Cup MVP Gaston Brugman's departure and what it might mean for the Galaxy on and off the field. Plus, we'll look at some of our favorite Galaxy moments of 2024, all that and more with our special guest of the evening, ESPN Deportes, is Katia Castorena. We are super lucky to have her. And before we go any further, let me introduce myself. I'm one of your co-hosts tonight, Rob Jalon, and you guys can always find me online at El Escudero de LA and my written work at Extra Time Talk. And you know what? I'm here, so that means we have my co-host, El Gitano Perdido, El Yerno Guapo, Ananda Kirana, the cosmopolitan one, joining us all the way across the globe from España. ¿Cómo estás, papá? Good morning.
Estoy bien, papá. Buenos días, right? I was going to say, I'm joining you cosmopolitan style with the janky internet of the Suegros, because I know you're dealing with that too. So we're both at our Suegros house right now. So live and direct from the Suegros house, guys. Live and direct.
I'm actually at my papa's house. My mom and papa's house.
That's right.
In Lancaster, and I don't know if they just don't have good internet out here, but yeah, man, we're all suffering because of it. But thank you guys for being here. Anyway, Anandita.
Yeah, no, obviously still, because I know we did. By the way, shout out Christian from Silly Soccer. We did a quick little audio pod with them just a few days ago, and I was just saying on that, like, I'm still shocked, still in a state of shock at sort of, us winning MLS Cup, just how it went about so quickly, right, within the first year. So I'm still definitely celebrating that. But of course, with all the news dropping in the past week, man, we're already looking to next year. And boy, Will Kuntz is on it, Papa. He is on it already, and we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, they're already moving, man. And we knew it was going to be a quick turnaround too, because I mean there was only a short time between MLS Cup and the CVI, so we knew it was going to be, quick and fast, and that's exactly what's happening, man. But yeah, you're right. We'll get into everything in a little bit, and plus we have a super awesome guest tonight joining us. So Ananda, hit up that housekeeping.
Hey, so yeah, you guys can always follow me, block me, or stalk me at Ananda Galaxiana. Of course, as always, our handles are there on the screen for all you watching on YouTube. And of course, you can find us on all the socials at La Cuna Galaxiana. Pretty simple tag there, guys. And if this is your first time coming to La Cuna Galaxiana, welcome to the chat. Thank you for listening, even if you're listening to this in the future on playback and all that good multiversal stuff. But of course, We know that a third of you that are listening are not subscribed to the show yet, guys. So if you can, do hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for when we go live, and you will be notified of it right away. And whoever the VPs of likes out there are out there, go ahead and hit those likes, guys. Smash it up. It would really, really help us out. And of course, you can always support the show if you want by buying us our horchata and contributing to our horchata fund for the year. So that's buymecoffee.com/La Cuna Galaxiana. Y Roberto, como siempre,
Sí.
antes de olvidarme, buenos días, tardes o noches, y bienvenidos a otro capítulo de La Cuna Galaxiana. This is going to be one of our last ones before the end of the year, guys. So savor it up. 2024 was a really good year for the Galaxy, and a good year for us too, Papa. We're moving on up.
Yeah, man, and yeah, you're right. It's one of the last episodes of the year. Pretty soon we'll be doing a season 3, and thank you guys all for that. Man, we wouldn't have made it this far without you, and luckily we didn't get canceled. And like I said, you guys all made it happen. Thank you to every single one of you that have subscribed to the show. We're approaching 410 subs, so go ahead and keep putting your people on, man, and we do appreciate it. Go ahead and check us out on Goals TV too. If you're not really a YouTube person or a Spotify person, we are on the Goals TV platform at the moment. We also did a box episode where me and Ananda kind of break down, different stuff about each other. Check out Ananda and Profe Alex Ruiz's Los Gatácticos series. That they got some freshness coming for you soon. And yeah, man. With that, we'll go ahead and get into our shout outs and announcements. Oh, I'd be lying if I said that was the last one. I do want to remind you guys too, check out that back catalog and, check out that Will Coons episode, check out that Jane Lanier episode. I mean, one of my favorites that we've done in recent memory is the one with Christian Miles, man. So big shout out to C Miles. So anyway, kicking off the announcements here, we got a bunch of birthdays, Ananda. So a bunch of G's apparently were born in December. So happy birthday to Robin Fraser. First off, we also got Big Rafa Garcia. Happy birthday to Rafa. He's always out there in the G's community, so shout out to him. Happy birthday to Gino Vive, el costarricense, and Ashley Cole, the Englishman. It was funny. I went down the rabbit hole of an old Ashley Cole hashtag from back in the day, Ananda, called "Things I'd Rather Have Than Ashley Cole." Apparently, this is Tucker's work, or he was in on it, and it went semi-viral. Earned him a tag. Earned him a block from Ashley Cole. So. Anyway, but I ended up making good on his time here. Happy birthday to Mickey Yamane and El Matador, Luis Hernandez, who also celebrated birthdays just yesterday on the 22nd. So happy birthday to all those G's. Guys, you know that I am Ecuadorian, so I have to shout this man out. Happy birthday to Agustin El Tin Delgado. He scored Ecuador's first goal in a World Cup finals. So happy birthday to him. I hope you're surrounded by friends and family, man. And since we're sending out, salutations and congratulations for birthdays, we might as well do it for some end of the Galaxy, end of the season award winners as well. So the first one up is Humanitarian of the Year, Jalen Neal. That's his second year in a row winning the award for the first team. It's actually his fifth year in a row between G2 and the first team that he's won this award. So congratulations to him, Humanitarian of the Year. Also, you guys know that Galaxy Mom, aka Sarah Neal, works with the Galaxy Foundation to bring out at least one family per game. Usually it's much, much more than that. Of course, Jalen opened the mini pitch, the Palms Park, and in his hometown of Lakewood. And earlier in the year, he was featured in Audi's celebrating Black Players Tribute Series for his work with Care Closet. So congratulations to Jalen Neal for Humanitarian of the Year. And then right after that, we have Defender of the Year, Maya Yoshida. He captained the side in all 34 games. Oh, sorry, I skipped one here. No, bring that one back, Ananda. We got to give this young man his love right here. Mateo Sakaris right here, captain and helped the LA Galaxy Academy U17s defeat Charlotte FC 4-1 in the final of the U17 MLS Next Cup. And he won Academy Player of the Year for the Galaxy for his exploits. One of the 3 LA Galaxy Academy players named to the All-Star game. And now we're bringing back Maya Yoshida here, who wins Defender of the Year for captaining the side in all 34 matches. The defense was much maligned all year. However, stats show that it was much improved over the year before that. So congratulations to Maya as Defender of the Year. Your Golden Boot winner is Gabriel Pecci with 21 goals in all competitions. Congratulations to Gabriel Pecci. I hope he gets a bunch more next year, because boy, are the Galaxy sure going to need him. And then your Player of the Year, LA Galaxy fans, no surprise here. This is Ricky Puig, a.k.a. the Prince, who was promised. That makes back-to-back Player of the Year awards for the Catalan. 17 goals and 19 assists in all competitions for him. Congratulations to Ricky Puig, doing his rehab just down the street from Ananda right there in Barcelona. Attention, season ticket members. I know a bunch of you just became season ticket members trying to support the G's all year long. So you'll have access to all the matches in the regular season, but apparently you will not have access to the Champions League matches. They will not be included in your season ticket member script. So go ahead and get on getting these Champions League tickets. It'll be the first time in almost 10 years that the Galaxy play in the Champions League, and they play their second leg in the round of 16 against RSL or Herediano on Wednesday, March 12th. So you got some time, but don't sleep on it. It is the first time the Galaxy will be playing the Champions League for 10 years. Guys, there's a last G's Run LA event of the year on Saturday, December 28th at the Rose Bowl at 9 a.m. And Ananda, as usual, they're going to have two different routes, a 3-mile route and a 5-mile route. And it's a good opportunity to go hang out with a couple of G's one last time before the year ends. Ananda, I got to ask you about this one. There was another Retro Galaxy kit leak, right? On initial thoughts, man, I'm not digging it. What do you think?
Well, I read that it wasn't going to be game worn, or it's not something that they wear. It's like a lifestyle thing. I've seen this kind of collection with like other Adidas kit sponsorships, so like Madrid and Arsenal, and it's kind of like a lifestyle thing. It's, I don't know, they call it like lifestyle saver jersey or something like that. So I mean, for like a t-shirt kind of deal, I think it's okay. Again, I don't think this is an actual kit. Maybe have some of the similar materials, but it's definitely not like game worn or anything like that. I think the one that we saw, I think we did it maybe a month or so ago, the one that resembled the Lakers colors, I think that's more what we'll see on the pitch. So, I mean, not bad. I guess Adidas wants to make their money, so can't blame them.
Yeah, people are going to snap these up because the Galaxy are the champions. And by the way, guys, apologies for my laggy internet. Like we said, we're each doing the show from different places in the world today. I'm in Lancaster, where apparently they don't believe in high-speed internet. So apologies to you guys if I sound like a robot, RoboCop or Optimus Prime. I'm not sold on this other shirt, Ananda, but what I am sold on is this new Naranja Dulce that's about to drop, the new El Más Grande t-shirt that's coming out. Obviously, they had to update this one. They had the old one where they had the 5 cups on it. Now Galaxy obviously have 6, and so they had to update the shirt. So that's definitely a must cop. Shout out to Naranja Dulce Shop for this one. Go check out them all their stuff on their socials. Ananda, the Spanish champions, the reigning women's champion, have a new home to play, it looks like, because the Women's World Cup got a new streaming deal. Apparently, Netflix is going to have exclusive broadcasting rights for 2027 and 2031's FIFA's Women's World Cup. The 2 competitions will be the first sports competitions to be acquired in full by Netflix. So they're really leaning into the sports scene and trying to stream it on. Hopefully, it goes better than the Logan Mike Tyson thing. But right, they claim that they'll have no trouble, no bugs, and every fan in the U.S., continental U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, even Puerto Rico will have access to every match live. So this will be the first World Cup set to be played in Brazil. That's going to be happening between June 24th and July 25th. Actually, the first time it's going to be held in South America at all. So this is a big occasion in 2027. 2031, those hosts are yet to be decided yet by the FIFA Congress. And like I said, the reigning champions, of course, are going to be taking their act, and their incredible Aitana Bonmati, the reigning Women's Player of the Year, now 3 times. They're going to be taking that show on the road in South America, man. So it's going to be a good time.
Man, I'm in the home of Aitana. I was gonna say I'm in the home of Aitana Bonmati. I was hoping to sometimes 'cause she hangs around the pueblo. I was hoping to catch her, like usually she's hanging out in the plaza, like eating something maybe for the holidays. But I think I want to say last week they played a match at the Camp Nou, or actually not. Well, the de facto stadium for Camp Nou right now, Luis Companys. I think they're playing Man City last week, so maybe that's why. But amazing player, incredible player. I like XPH, who's in the chat right now. We are Madridistas, but man, got game recognized game. So she's a hell of a player.
Yeah, man. Game does recognize game. She's incredible. You mentioned Man City. So wonderful to see those lads in shambles. Anyway, we digress, but we're both going to enjoy that one. Guys, we had something else to enjoy this week, because as a journalist, sometimes you go out there and you try to report on things and you don't have the full scope of what's really going on, because the league isn't the most transparent. Well, in an effort to become a little bit more transparent, this year the MLS, not the MLS has published their general allocation money list that's available to all clubs for 2025. There was a couple of key takeaways from this. We had a Tom Bogert tweet on here. I don't know if you want to read this one out.
Yeah, for the first time ever, MLS has made public the amount of GAM. I think as a typo there. Each club has. This is a great step towards further transparency. MLS also listed examples of how GAM is used. It is very useful. Yeah, guys, if there's a resource on the actual MLS site that shows you, again, if you were interested in salary cap wizardry, which I was interested in because I usually that stuff goes in way over my head. It is a very good resource, and yeah, really good for transparency. I 100% agree.
Yeah, and it's the first time ever, right? And it kind of gives you a bigger picture of what each team has to play with. Like, I mean, obviously the big news that we're going to cover a little bit later is Gaston Brugman thing, and I mean, you look at the numbers and you kind of realize why it needed to happen. I mean, the numbers paint the story, right? Only Houston at the moment has a lower amount of general allocation money to use than the Galaxy, and I mean, it paints a bleak picture of what would be available to the Galaxy if they didn't have a wizard at the helm like Will Kuntz. We also have some input from Taylor Twelman, Ananda.
Yeah, so Taylor says, never thought we'd see the day. This gives fans and media now real transparency to talk MLS shop, which in turn keeps the accountability and pressure on front offices to perform. All good things for the league. I, for one, had no idea the top 3 would be these teams. So that would be Atlanta, New England, and St. Louis City are the top 3. Garth has a full deck in Atlanta to really work things in the right direction. New England and St. Louis have to be very aggressive in 25 with that amount of money to work with. And yeah, I agree. Those teams, especially Atlanta, given sort of, I would say, the quote-unquote success of the last postseason, of course, getting over Miami, I mean, they are retooling, man. They are definitely retooling on that side of the Eastern Conference. So,
to have all those assets, but I'm sure they're sitting across the aisle and going, to have Will Kuntz, right? Yeah. And Will Kuntz has already started doing his thing, right? Because he sees this number that the Galaxy have, which is 2 million and about 400K. And it's not very awe-inspiring to go ahead and fortify this team. But like I said, Will Kuntz already making moves, already picking up some GAM on draft day. He picked up about 50K on draft day from a deal that the Galaxy had with Real Salt Lake to give up the 30th pick. And so already adding to that. And of course, guys, if you want to follow how much the Galaxy actually has in their coffers, a good person to follow on this one is the Podfather Josh Gessman, who has a spreadsheet that he maintains every year. So this is a good resource to pick up if you guys are wondering, how much money do the Galaxy actually have to play with to sign players. Josh is going to let you know, guys. Shout out to him. And I did see that he was a little bit under the weather and sick. So hopefully he's on the mend, and we're wishing him the best of luck. For sure, man. And so I did mention MLS Super Draft Day. The Galaxy had 3 picks. And yeah, man, it, by all intents and purposes, I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody from the pickups are going to go straight into the first team, but I like the way that the front office actually picked up players last year in Tucker Lepley. Tucker didn't play a whole bunch, but he has game. Who knows if he's going to break into that Galaxy first team at some point, but he definitely has some game, right? Yeah, no, he definitely has enough technical skill too, right? So the Galaxy had 3 picks in the first round. They picked 20th overall. They picked up midfielder Jason Buckner from the University of Michigan. In the second round, with the 60th overall pick, because remember, they dealt that 30th pick to RSL. 60th overall pick, they picked up forward Jacob Woznicki from Hofstra University. And the very last pick in the draft, the third round, the 90th pick overall, they picked up forward Nicholas Sullivan from Cal State San Bernardino / LAFC 2. So that was one of those things that I kind of raised my eye, like, we have an academy player kind of jumping the aisle here. But guys, we do have a couple of transfer rumors to go ahead and bring to you before we go ahead and get to our special guest of the evening. The big one, coach wise, anyway, is that Wilfried Nancy could be on his way back to France to be coaching in Ligue 1. The hot rumor is that he is going to be joining Saint Etienne. So if that actually comes off, congratulations to Wilfried Nancy. He's one of the better coaches in MLS, so he deserves this, man. So, but regarding Galaxy rumors, there hasn't been anything that's been like super, super hot, but these are the ones that we've been able to pick up in the past couple of weeks. From Club America, the Chilean Diego Valdez, the 30-year-old, he's a center attacking midfielder. He's been linked with the Galaxy a couple different times. So he's scored 13 goals and 5 assists in 37 games last year. So I mean, he produces, man. So that's one of the rumors. He had 13 and 12 in 40 games a year before, but the knock on him is that he's injured quite frequently. So that's so watch out for me. One of the biggest assets the Galaxy had this year is that these players that were on the team this year were available for the most part. So the second big rumor is Hakim Ziyech, who man, he has some pedigree. Anando, what do you think first about the Diego Valdez rumor and then the Hakim Ziyech rumor?
Yeah, I don't know much about Diego Valdez. I do know quite a bit about Hakim Ziyech. He played with Chelsea, and of course before that he was a star in Ajax. Definitely was a contributor to their Champions League runs for sure. Look, I don't know much about Valdez, like I said, but it's pretty clear, man. We're trying to find attacking midfielders, and at least from these links, right? To try to supplement the loss of Ricky Puig, or to try to cover for the loss of Ricky Puig. So it's clear that we're looking in that department. Now, I wouldn't be surprised, given the Gaston news, to see maybe some other more central box-to-box type of midfielders, right? Ball progressors, to be linked to those. Remember, Rob, one of the interesting things, and maybe we'll talk about this later as we see the construction of the roster, is we have a U22 slot to play with. So it'll be interesting which position on the field are we going to use that U22 slot that is very valuable. You see how valuable it was last year, given that Dejan Jovalic and, of course, Julian Aude lost a starting spot to John Nelson, but, very, very important asset to have. It helped us win that 6th MLS Cup. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. These rumors have probably come out just because of the absence of Ricky Puig, in my opinion.
So you think these are more kind of like, in Spanish they would say lámpara, kind of like whatever rumors, like that they're not really real?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think in the turn of the new year. I think those will start heating up. I would say we're gonna look for a younger player, but I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. Now we've got Sean Davis, who's a little bit of an older player again. We'll talk about him as well. So yeah, I think these are I think these are just floating around. I mean, one came from the Turkish press, you know. See, read into that.
Maybe an agent trying to get that value up, right? Well, whoever it is, they're going to need to come in soon, right? Because the Galaxy have just over about a month and a half until the CVI starts. We did get an official confirmation on CVI fixtures. The first one is against Austin on February 5th. We have another one on February 9th versus Charlotte, February 12th versus Minnesota, and they end the CVI versus Chicago on February 15th at noon. Tickets went on sale on December 18th, guys. So go ahead and pick those up. It really is a fun time. It's really the best place to go to get like the closest access to Galaxy players. And some of these Galaxy players are going to be quite new. And yeah, we're gonna talk about the newest Galaxy player here in a little bit. But before we do that, we want to now bring you the reason we're all really here. No one wants to really listen to us, but our guest today is incredible. Please welcome to the show, de verdad, una mujer muy chingona, muy trabajadora in journalism and in sports journalism. You know her work from covering some of the most important sporting events in the world, like the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup, 2 Super Bowls, 51 and 52, and the NBA Finals in 22 and 23, several CONCACAF and international soccer tournaments. And Ananda, you might like this one, a bunch of Formula One, just a couple of different sit downs with Lewis Hamilton. You can currently catch her on Monday Night Football on ESPN Deportes, and of course, covering the 6-time MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy. Please welcome to the show. Somehow, some way, we got her to sit down with us. Katia Castorena, ¿cómo estás?
Hola. Hi. All good. Thank you. What an introduction. Thank you so much, guys. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Bienvenidos, Katia.
Oh, man. Yeah, and this is my co-host. Yeah, felices
Igualmente.
Feliz Navidad.
Yeah, feliz Navidad. Yo sé que eres mexicana, right? So, ¿a dónde vas a pasar? ¿Vas a pasar con familia allá en México? Are you going to stay stateside? Busy bee working?
I actually have a little bit of time off this week, so that doesn't happen very often, but I will. I actually headed to Mexico City tomorrow, so I'll be in Mexico City with family.
We're so jealous.
So that's going to be fun.
Well, Ananda says he's so jealous, but he's in Barcelona being all cosmopolitan. You're about to jet set to Mexico City, and I'm stuck in Lancaster.
What time is it in Barcelona right now?
Oh, it is 6:30 de la mañana, but it's okay. I had my cortadito this morning. Early start. All good.
That sounds good. Yeah, nothing that a cortadito can't fix.
Exactamente. Right.
Ahí está.
Bueno, la pregunta más clave del día, ¿no? ¿Qué quieres que Santa Claus te regale para esta Navidad?
Oh, good question. More awesome coverages. I mean, health, first of all. So as long as we're healthy and we're good, so that way we can keep on working, bringing you all the information. So hopefully it's going to be another good year of a lot of things happening in LA, I think. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no, there's going to be so much good soccer there. And it's incredible how much we get to see like up close and in person, like the teams that are going to be in Los Angeles and just in the United States in general. But this is Ananda knows, like I just covered my first MLS Cup. You've been in El Medio, you've been doing your thing now for a little bit, and I can imagine you don't really get fazed by much, right? I mean, you've sat with a bunch of sports stars in a bunch of different mediums, right? But for the people that don't know, first off, how did you get into sports journalism? And then second off, maybe where can they find you online and then follow your work?
I got into sports journalism when I was in college. So I went to USC. I was a communication major, and I knew I wanted to work in media because I was always attracted to the whole storytelling aspect of it. And then just like behind the scenes, how they would create movies and television shows. Whenever I did internships when I was in high school, I was always fascinated and at the local TV station, seeing just how everything came together. So I knew I wanted to do that. I just wasn't sure what area. And I had always been a sports fan growing up because of my dad. So it's only my sister and I. So I guess I got the sports gene and I grew up with that, sharing it with my dad because he's a sports fanatic, of course, and he's like watching sports 24/7. And I mean, I played soccer growing up, and I mean, other things, but mainly soccer. So I was always a fan, and I never thought of it as I never thought it would end up being my career until I was in college and I actually saw what it was. I saw a platform of how to cover sports. And in that moment, it's just that aha moment that everything clicked when I'm like, oh my gosh, two things that I love, sports and media, that I was always like fascinated by, and how to tell stories and create features but related to sports. So it was like in that moment that I knew that's what I wanted, and I started volunteering at ATVN covering collegiate sports, and that's how it all started, and here we are. Oh, and of course, if you want to follow me, it's easy on social media: Instagram, X, TikTok, just first and last name, easy.
And it must have been crazy for your pops, though, right? Because you said that you got that love of sports from him, right? I mean, every person that follows sports here in the U.S., at least up until recently, where everything is a lot on the internet, was pretty much ESPN, right? So ahí está tu papá viendo ESPN, y un día ahí está su hija, like, ay, caray, ahí está mi hija. Like, what was that like for you and for him?
It's still pretty surreal till this day, and I love my dad, of course, and he's watching television, and whenever I'm on and he sees something, and he's like my number one fan, and he'll grab his phone and start like
Así debe
recording,
ser.
like he'll start filming the screen. So I've been doing this for like 10 years, and he still will not like stop filming the television whenever I'm like there. So it's pretty awesome that we get to share that, and we talk about sports like every day. We're either texting, or if we're talking to each other when we're like talking on the phone or whatever it is, and then we end up talking about sports. Of course, it's like, oh, did you see this and that? Did you watch the game? Even my mom and my sister are like, oh, here we go again. We had been talking about something else, and of course everything has to go back to sports at some point. So that's just us, and they know. So it's pretty cool that we get to share that. And then I grew up in the border, so like Tijuana and San Diego, and it was like really cool to have that, because I mean, growing up, we would go to watch the Padres and go to the Padres games, or the Chargers when they were there. Then I got to see how Xolos were born, and see a soccer team in Tijuana. I was in high school, and eventually that's how I got, I guess, my first big break, when I got to cover Xolos when I was starting. So it was pretty cool.
Bueno, tenemos una pregunta para ti del chat. Football Mania says, what sport does Katia like covering most? I mean, I read off everything that you cover. I mean, the NBA, Formula One, I mean, soccer, I mean, just so much. So which of it is your favorite?
Oh, because every sport has something special, and every event is different. So it's always fun. But I'd say the ones that I enjoy to cover the most are like my two favorite sports, which is soccer and football. So of course, covering the NFL is a dream come true, and then soccer, I just enjoy it so much that I love covering soccer. And like I said, everything has something special. Like Formula One, for example, is something completely different to any other event. That's always like very glamorous, and it's very different from all the other sports. So that has been like a challenge, but also something different, that it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I know Ananda must be itching right there with an F1 question, man, because he's all about F1. And one of the things that I learned about you is that you've actually sat down with Lewis Hamilton 3 different times for one-on-ones, and that must be crazy, right? Because he's widely considered probably the best driver in the sport, right? So you're basically, sitting down with LeBron James or Leo Messi or Otani, right? So ¿cómo fue eso?
Yes, and whenever people ask me, that's definitely one of my favorite interviews ever. The
Nice.
second one that I had with him, the second sit down that I had with him in Mexico City. Oh my gosh, the first one I was so nervous. Also because it was around the time that I had just moved to Mexico City and I was starting in my career. So that was pretty huge. It was at the time when the Mexico GP had gone back because it had been absent for years. So I believe it was 2015 that the Mexican Grand Prix was added back into the F1 schedule, and it was there in the calendar. So it was like craziness all around. And what helped me in that situation when I was in Mexico City, also, it's because of being bilingual in my English. So when I was in Mexico City, and then when they were just assigning who was going to go cover F1 and do like interviews with the drivers, so I got that assignment and I was so nervous because I was going to have that big sit down, and it was that moment when Lewis Hamilton was like winning everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like a very like awesome moment. I remember it was through a Puma event because he sponsored or was sponsored by Puma. So it was through them that we got that first sit down. And then the second one, I don't know, I feel like the second one, I challenged myself to come up with interesting questions. I was doing like a bunch of research so that it would be something like different to maybe what he had been asked before. And also because he, in that moment, he had the possibility to get another championship like in that race if he won that race. So that was one of the questions. And he likes to, doing the research, I found out that he likes chess a lot. So when I asked him,
like Aeon.
yeah. So when I asked him, what would you describe or what would your move be here in Mexico? And of course he said checkmate. And that was like the headline of like, it was a headline like Lewis Hamilton wants to like checkmate in Mexico. So that was pretty cool.
Mírala haciendo portadas ahí por todo el mundo.
Not surprising that he likes chess, given all the amount of pit strategies and all that stuff going on in F1. So
Exactly.
Not surprising for sure. He's definitely a cerebral person, definitely.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, drivers have to be, I feel, and more so a genius mind like his. So not surprising there that he's big on chess.
Well, from the cockpit there to the pitch, right? You mentioned that soccer is one of your favorite sports to cover, and compliment time. Actually, you mentioned that you did a bunch of research for interesting questions for Lewis Hamilton. That's actually one of my favorite things about you, Katia, is that in every Galaxy press conference, you ask like the most interesting questions, right? Because
oh, thank you.
But by the time people get questions, sometimes all the questions have been asked already, like what'd you think of the game, what'd you see on that goal, stuff like that, right? So sometimes you got to think outside of the box, and Katia does wonderful at this. So recently, obviously everyone knows, unless you've been living under a rock, that the Galaxy have won their 6th MLS Cup, their record 6th title. Katia was there, boots on the ground, just like I was. She was there for media day. But where myself was a pleb, and had to fight for questions. Katia was big ballin', and she had that ESPN hookup, and so she got some really nice sit downs with some players. So what was that lead up to the final like, Katia? Any interesting anecdotes? Anything that you took away from the lead up that had you thinking, hey, this Galaxy team is gonna win, or maybe had you thinking on whether or not they'd actually pull it out?
During those interviews, like prior to the final, I also really enjoyed talking to the Red Bull players because I hadn't like spoken to them because they hadn't been here. I mean, during preseason, but I didn't get to interview them, and we don't get to follow them on a daily basis. So it was very interesting to also like hear their perspective. I think they have a great coach, some great talent like Jamai that is probably going to do great things with the U.S. men's national team at some point, like the senior team. And also seeing him at the final and the way he performed, I think he's a great talent that should probably go to Europe soon. Something happened because he left and then came back, something like that. But seeing the confidence that the team had, I was like, ooh, they're really in it for the fight. And that's why they're the underdogs and they made it that far because of that mentality of why not us? Or it was a phrase
Right.
like that. I forgot the phrase that their captain had made popular.
I think it is why not us. Yeah.
Why not us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Valid question.
Yeah, so it was very interesting to like listen to their perspective and their season and what had worked for them and just the confidence that they had and the young players because they pride themselves in the work that they do at their academy, and we've seen it with a bunch of players being able to go from there to Europe. So I think they do a great job, and kudos to the way they played the final. I think had they not given up those 2 goals that early, we would have seen a different game. So it was very interesting to, I guess, talk to them and see that because I hadn't throughout the season. But then also comparing it to the Galaxy players and when they sat down, just knowing they were just like so locked in and so in the zone. And you try to like break the ice a little bit like before the interviews. And I was like, oh, one more interview. And sometimes I'd be like one of the last ones. And then they're like, oh, it's okay. But if this is like, I don't mind it if this is what we have to do because we're in the final, like we'll do it and we're happy to do it. Even I told that to Greg when he sat down before the interview and he's like, well, I'm happy to hear that that's the way the guys feel, that they just know that it was a part of it and that they take it because they got to not just play in a final but host a final, and they were very excited about that. So I did get that feeling since that moment that they were still like very confident, very just like in the zone and sure about what was going to happen.
So we do have another chat question for you. The one and only real CO says, thank you for being an inspiration for many of us out there. What is it like working in a predominantly male field?
I know. You know what? I'm like, you get used to it, and I always try to just do like focus on my job, focus on the things that I'm doing, just like carry myself with respect towards everyone. And I still find it like very interesting sometimes when I'm sitting down. It actually happened to me recently at a U.S. men's national team game that I got to go to in St. Louis. And then as I was sitting there in the press conference room, and I looked around and I realized I was the only woman there during that press conference asking questions. I was like, wow, because I love seeing more and more women into sports and seeing them at the games and at the events. But there are still those moments like a month ago where I was like the only woman sitting there and the only woman in the room asking questions. So it just fills me with pride to be able to like open those doors and like show that it is possible. And nothing is more rewarding to me nowadays when someone says that they see what I do and it's an inspiration and that they want to do it too. So that means the world to me. And I guess that's just my focus on keep up the good work. I don't try to see it as like male or female. I think it's if you do a good job and it's all about performance, but at the same time, if you can open those doors for other people to see that it's a possibility, if someone maybe hadn't thought about it before, that it's something, if they like sports, if they're passionate about sports, that they can pursue and that they can do. It's something that I think it's great. So I like that, but at the same time, I try not to like feel less than or anything. It's more about just a motivation and wanting to perform always at my best.
Yeah, and Katia was part of the large contingent of female journalists at MLS Cup. I mean, Judge Sophie was there, Nanda. I mean, Katia herself was there. The homegirl Chandrima, who we had on the show before as well, was there. A lot of talented journalists, no matter their sex. But speaking of that day, Katia, what was that day like for you? I mean, we spoke about kind of like the lead up and what that was like, sitting with players and seeing how excited they were. But then you actually get to game day. What was that day like for you?
The only thing that it's kind of weird when it comes to MLS Cup in LA or during like Pacific time being in the West Coast is that it's so early. It's like we have a final at 1 p.m. That's the only thing that I don't totally love, because we're so used to being at the stadium at night and seeing that atmosphere at nighttime, that having a kickoff that early is more like an NFL game. But like it being an MLS Cup final, I wish it could be later, to be honest. I feel like it
definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. The show in itself would be a little bit different. So that's what felt different. Like, oh my gosh, I have to wake up early, get ready, get there like early, beat traffic, park, and not the usual schedule when it's just a regular season game or even playoffs. But it's always exciting just when it's like game day, but it's a final and we're going to see a team become a champion. So that's, I guess, just the time was a little bit different, but the days prior leading up to the final, the fact that we get all that access and the interviews and getting to see other journalists that we don't get to see that flew in for the game. So catching up with people that getting all the details about the game, that's always exciting. Writing the articles, I had to write like a few articles like in depth about the analysis prior to the final. So those are like things that I enjoy the week off and then leading up to just the day of the final, when you're just ready to enjoy the game. And then once the game starts and when it's the final, regardless of what sport it is, or like the teams, I just get nervous. I don't know why. It's just like,
oh man, it's a final.
It's a final. Yeah, I'm getting the butterflies, just enjoying the fact that it's a final. I can't even imagine what the players and the coaches are feeling, because I'm there just watching the game and being like nervous about the outcome and everything that's happening.
Oh, hermana, let me tell you, I mean, yo crecí apoyando ese club, ¿no? Y ahora tengo la oportunidad, tengo la suerte de cubrirlo ahora. And so imagine how nervous I was, like trying to keep it like all together, me professional, but at the same time being like, oh man, I hope this turns out the way I wanted to. My butterflies were on another level. Oh man, it was just crazy. Pero
a tú no tenías que poner las gafas, ¿no? Papá?
Yeah, no,
I mean,
porque Katia, I don't know if. Yeah, go ahead and tell Katia, man.
No, porque empezaste. Well, at 2-0, of course. I mean, Rob is. By the way, if you guys don't know in the chat, also Rob is a huge teddy bear, right? Wears his heart on his sleeve. And at 2-0, he told me, Katia, afterwards, he said, I had to put my sunglasses on, man. I was about to just bawl. Like, I was so emotional, so happy for the team. Time, Katia. But then that probably turned quickly into nervousness, right? But as soon as they scored that goal, oof. Yeah, what an ending, though. What an ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And it turned out the way, obviously Galaxy fans wanted to. It was the Hollywood script ending 10 years later, win it for Ricky. A unsung hero comes in and wins MVP, and we'll talk about him here in a moment. But the Galaxy win, and they don't really have that much time to enjoy their win, because they're already making moves. The MLS schedule for next year has already dropped. The CVI schedule has already dropped. So Ananda, go ahead and bring us into MLS full schedule release mode right here.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're already looking forward to next year, guys. But like Rob said, the MLS schedule has fully released. I've flashed it up on the screen there. Of course, if you're looking across the league, opening day, which is February 22nd and the 23rd, that would be the opening weekend. Of course, you've got the inaugural match for San Diego FC against the defending champion, 6-time MLS Cup champion LA Galaxy on Sunday, February 23rd. Inter Miami is going to be opening their campaign at home versus NYCFC, a very interesting match there. And then MLS Cup finalists New York Red Bulls start away from home this time, away from the newly minted Sports Illustrated Stadium to FC Cincinnati. That should be a cracker, Rob. Of course, FC Cincinnati finished third in the table last year in the Eastern Conference. And then, of course, if you move on to Rivalry Week, of course, this is where El Tráficos happen, the Hudson River Derby, all that good stuff. That will be on the 14th through the 18th. So that'll be very, very interesting there. And then, of course, after
what month
that,
is that?
That'll be May 14th through the 18th.
Yeah, May's killer for the Galaxy.
May is an absolutely killer month. Yeah, I looked at the schedule for sure. And then, of course, Decision Day. Of course, last campaign, we did not have a good Decision Day, of course, in that last-minute loss to Houston. But of course, so for the Galaxy, we host Minnesota United at home. But some interesting fixtures there, man, for sure. But of course, as usual, hopefully we do not leave it to the last minute to Decision Day too, because we have not had good luck on Decision Day the past few years. That's kind of been the Galaxy's MO, especially away from Houston. We're not playing Houston this year, so there you go. If you look at it from the Galaxy's perspective, by the way, so here's just a recap of the key dates. So opening weekend is in February 22nd. And to 23rd, Rivalry Week in May. The All-Star Game this year, July 23rd at Q2 Stadium, of course, at Austin. Leagues Cup will start at the 29th of July. That tournament will run all the way to the end of August, the 31st, and then Decision Day, as we said, October 18th there. Looking at it from the Galaxy's perspective, though, guys, I flashed up here in the chat if you are in there, looking at the home and away schedule. Rob, I know you wrote a excellent article on Extra Time Talk, which I did read, by the way, this time. So
no way.
Yeah, totally.
What?
Yeah, I supported the co-host this time. I read it.
Man,
gave you that.
Katia, es un milagro. Es un milagro porque este güey nunca lee mis artículos. O sea,
it's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, well, I think I was gonna say that this guy's Christmas gift to Exxon. I read your article. Look, first off, I did learn how to read and write, so I could write this thing, right? So I thank you for reading it. But yes, I did write an article about this. Now you can take it away again. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I know. Well, in your article, you highlighted a couple of key fixtures, and again, we'll go through them, guys. So, of course, you always want to start well that inaugural match for San Diego FC at home, especially where we're, celebrating again that 6th MLS Cup. It's important to start the campaign well. So that's obviously going to be an important match.
Wait. So are we gonna go through these matches really quick?
Sorry, say that again, Rob.
Is that a yes?
Say that again, Rob. Sorry.
So are we gonna go through these Galaxy matches right now?
Yeah, you want to go through them yourself, or you want me to go through them for you?
I actually want to ask Katia a question about the schedule at large, right? We'll get into the Galaxy specific schedule here in a moment. But what jumped out at you from this MLS schedule, Katia? I mean, Ananda highlighted some juicy matches. Inter Miami at home against NYCFC. That first Galaxy match against San Diego. But is there anything that you're looking forward to in the schedule?
The Galaxy schedule?
No, just the schedule at large, like the overall MLS schedule.
Yes, I think there are some interesting games. I always enjoy, focusing on the West Coast when they get a little bit more of those fixtures against the East Coast, because I would like to see more of that. I get it that traveling wise is a little bit complicated, but I think it would make it, I don't know if fair is the right word, but if they can really measure up to almost all of the teams, or against more of the teams, because at least what I liked of this schedule overall, that we are seeing a little bit less of just like the conference games, so they mix it up a little bit more, because
Right.
I just feel like last year they would have the same opponents over and over and over again. And I like to see more of that variety. Starting with El Tráfico, at least you only have 2 games this season, because I
Exactly.
think that's the way
Right.
it's supposed to be. I'm like a home and away for each
Exactly.
team. That way, when you have just like so many of those matchups, it just like loses a little bit of the excitement around it. So I like so far what I've seen, that this schedule, or they try to mix it up a little bit more, and moving forward, I would like to actually see more of that, and of the West facing the East a little bit more, so that you don't get the same games every single time against the same opponents.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
important call out.
variety of.
Really important
Go
call
ahead,
out that
Nanda.
there's only two El Tráficos this year, no Rose Bowl game. Of course, that's one of the things that we'll talk about when we see the Galaxy schedule. But yeah, that's how it should be, and to keep this rivalry, fresh, I guess.
Yeah, no 4th of July El Tráfico. So those of you guys who loved it, sorry about it. Those of you guys who complained about it every which way, you got your wish. It is no more. Edgar Nag says, kind of agreeing with Katia. There needs to be more variety in that schedule. Only 6 Eastern Conference opponents for the Galaxy this year.
Exactly. Only 6. That's why I would like to see more. But I mean, at least it's something. And
Right.
the exciting part that they're gonna face Miami again. So
this
so
time
everyone that
in Miami.
so if everyone wants to do a summer trip and go to Miami, I'm sure
I'm so down.
that'd be I'm sure that'd be a good one.
Well, here's what we'll do. I'll jump in your luggage and we'll go ahead. I'll fly on ESPN's dime out there, and I don't need to be comfortable. I'll just fly in the luggage, right? But yeah, you did mention that Inter Miami match. Ananda did mention the fact that I wrote this article about what I thought were the key fixtures this year for the Galaxy. Obviously, that home opener against San Diego. I put this one on there not for the importance of the match or like the opponent, but like Ananda said, you always want to start well, right? So the next matchup that I had on there was the first Champions Cup matches in almost a decade for the Galaxy versus RSO or Herediano, CS Herediano from Costa Rica. That's on the 3-4 and 3-12. The MLS Cup final rematch between the Galaxy and New York Red Bulls on May 10th. Just a week later, one of the only 2 El Tráficos of the year, the home El Tráfico for the Galaxy, will be on the 18th. Then you're looking at August away at Inter Miami. And then what could potentially be an MLS Cup final preview. And then, of course, the one that I'm really looking forward to, which is the rematch against the Sounders on the 13th. But I believe there's a sooner one than that.
Yeah. August 10th at home against the Sounders, and then away at Lumen Field at September 13th. That'll be tough too. That'll be the last games of the season where we need to get points right for seeding. So, yeah, very, very good call outs.
Right.
Well, I'm still a little bit confused.
Go ahead,
I'm still a little bit confused. I guess in my understanding, after looking at the schedule, I still need some clarification from the MLS. But Leagues Cup is going to be played from July 29th until August 31st. And there are games scheduled in August. So I'm assuming, are Leagues Cup's games going to be like in the middle of the week, and then they're going to be midweek. Playing both midweek. That's what I'm assuming, kind of like any other cup championship in other parts of the world. So you would have that, but then regular season games over the weekend. So that's going to be a little bit congested over there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was interesting. I thought that was interesting because they didn't have that this year.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's something that I think they wanted to address from last year. Remember how last year you had Mexican teams kind of like camping out in the United States for a couple of weeks because they were quote unquote the home teams, right? And then you had some Mexican teams that got stranded in airports and stuff like that. So kind of avoid all that, they're trying to do like the midweek thing. And yeah, you're right, it's going to be very congested. And I mean, that's not even just to say, you know, the other tournaments that are going on. If the Galaxy, you know, goes on in the Champions Cup, they'll be playing Champions Cup football as well. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a fun summer for us, because we're going to be covering a lot of matches. But I just feel bad for these players, right? And I told you that I called out that Seattle match. Let me see if you guys follow me for a second here. I called out that Seattle match, right? Because you said it was on August 10th, Ananda?
Yeah, the one at home.
Yes. Well, if we do the math, and you read my article, right? So you'll pick up on where I'm going on this, right? If the math is mathing, right, and the MLS script writers, you know, are doing their job, then we could be seeing Ricky Puig on his return on August 10th at home versus Seattle. I mean, the ACL is 6 to 9 months. You know, he could be within the realm of possibility of making that happen. Katia, estoy loco, or does that make sense? Or like, just like from a script writing perspective, would that be a fun story?
Yeah, totally. No, it totally makes sense. Of course, every player is different, everybody is different, but because of what we've seen in other cases, it makes sense that he'd be making his return around that time. I was just looking at his Instagram story, and he's walking around with his family with his crutches. So it's those early stages of the process, and then the rehab that he's going to have to go through all the following months. But I think that he's still young. He's going to be okay. And around that time over the summer, it's a good timeline.
Yeah, I mean, and if he doesn't come back for that one, then the very next week, the Galaxy travel to Inter Miami to face some guy that you guys might have heard of, Leo Messi. He's an up and comer, I hear, and yeah, so that'll be just the week after that. So if it doesn't happen against Seattle, I'm calling it now, guys. Call me a brujo. Last time I said call me a brujo, Nando, what happened?
Gaston started and he became MLS Finals MVP. So crazy, man.
So I'm just saying, call me a brujo now. I'm calling Ricky to come back in one of those two matches, and it kind of be like the thing of the moment when he comes back. If it's against Seattle, it'll be like the revenge game, right? If he comes back against Inter Miami, it'll be like that MLS Cup preview. You know, it'll be Ricky Puig in the Galaxy versus Inter Miami again.
Is that Seattle one? Is that Seattle one at home? The one in August?
August 10th.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. I feel like if you give him his first minutes after such a long time, especially being at home, that'd be more realistic of him seeing those first minutes. So that'd be a good game to come back, and then traveling and getting, of course, more minutes against Inter Miami if everything goes well.
Just bring him off the bench. Make sure Obed Vargas, Christian Roldan, Alex Roldan, they're both off the pitch at that moment, so we can protect him a little bit, and we can do that. Yeah, that'll work.
Man, you look at you starting shit again.
Oh man, I'm so petty about that. Still petty about that. Anyways.
Well, Katia, we see the schedule. We know the Galaxy are in at the very least 4 competitions, if not 5. After we get U.S. Open Cup confirmation, we'll know. But you know, they have the Leagues Cup, they have the League, they have the Champions Cup, and they have a one-off against the winner from Mexico in the Campeones Cup. Which of these competitions, if you were Greg Vanney, would you be prioritizing?
Oh, I mean, the regular season, it's a long season, so you still have a lot of time there and to see those ups and downs that come naturally to the season. So I think the priority, because it comes first and because it's an international competition, that it's always very attractive to every club, I'd say the Champions Cup should come first. I mean, like I said, also because it's like the first one in the schedule, and you're going to get to it right away. So I'd say that has to be the priority right away. And then as the season gets going and you start assessing where everybody's at, and then you get more minutes, then you'll start kind of trying to like dividing the squad. And that's the thing also about MLS and the problem with having so many competitions, and the fact that you cannot make more moves and you're limited when it comes to roster and cap salary and signings. That's a disadvantage. It has been for MLS. It's just the truth, and we've seen it with other clubs, that when you get to finals of international competitions or you have Leagues Cup, it's very difficult, because then you need to pick and choose, and then you don't have enough depth to make a run and get everything. So that's just a reality of things. And I mean, the commission already said it, like it's just gonna stay like that when it comes to making changes to cap space and the way they get to make signings. So unfortunately, yes, it allows for the league to have that parity and that we see those exciting games, but then it's not according to the rest of the soccer world, where they can just get more like wiggle room to fight for more things.
Yeah,
Right.
just like
Well,
Potter
I mean,
said, just like Potter says right here, basically too much red tape. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, Ananda, how much I love when our guest segues me beautifully into our next topic. So thank you, Katia, for that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. MLS rosters and teams have been hamstrung by these financial rules. Commissioner Don Garber has already said not to expect big changes in that way. So it seems like whatever the Galaxy is going to do in terms of the competitions, they're going to have to do it with the existing money they have, which is part of the reason that this week the Galaxy dropped a big bomb on Galaxy fans when they announced that they had acquired Nashville SC midfielder Sean Davis in exchange for the MVP of MLS Cup Gaston Brugman and a conditional $100K if Davis meets certain performance metrics. So this one, came out of nowhere. I think in light of Ricky's injury. I mean, I did tell Ananda before Ricky's injury that I thought Gaston might be moved on because of his salary, but I was really surprised that it happened after Ricky Pooch getting injured. Of course, Nashville will retain part of Davis's 2025 salary budget charge, so it does save the Galaxy a bunch of money on the books. I did do an article about Gaston's departure as well, and I mean, all told, between Martin Cáceres and Gaston's salary, I mean, and even throwing in Davis's salary that he was making last year, they're still saving over $1 million a year. So it's a clear indication of what you were saying, Katia, that red tape, that those financial restrictions are causing teams to lose high caliber players like Gaston Brugman. Of course, he 6 goals and 10 assists, but the big one is that he came in and in the last minute in MLS Cup, and he put in an MVP performance. Was this a surprise to you, Katia, at all that this happened and it happened so quick, or were you kind of like me and you might have seen it coming a little bit?
I mean, it was a surprise, but then when you look at the numbers, it makes sense, because like we were saying, you need to free up some space, especially the Galaxy that is way up there when it comes to the cap salary. So they needed the space. It was like too much of a commodity, like a good player, an expensive player, also to be on the bench, because that's the reality of things. Like, he's not a starter, yes, considering what happened to Ricky and that you're not going to have him like half of this season. And he's the one that stepped up and took that place during the final, and look what happened. He even like became the MVP. So I think he gave the team what he had to, in that brilliant performance when he was needed the most. But he also got injured. He wasn't always there, wasn't consistent. You know, he's a player of a certain age that I think it was just a wise decision. And it's a tough decision because he's a great guy in the locker room. And I really like Gaston. But that's the tough part when it comes to GMs making those calls, and especially in MLS. And when you have a championship caliber roster, you wish you could like keep everybody and keep on building on that, but it's just not possible. So it was the right move to make. So you get a lot in return because he was the MVP and he's at this like great moment in his career, and then you get that space and you're getting in return a guy that it's not going to be on the ball maybe like as good as Gaston, or not with those like offensive qualities, but you have someone that it's going to be reliable, that's a veteran, that knows the league, that he's going to be good with pressing. You're getting, you know, someone good there to add to your roster. So I feel like it was the right thing to do because of all the things that we're talking about.
I was gonna say I think the hardest thing, well, for me as a fan, my initial reaction was gutting, right? But this is what had to be done. But just as a fan, just gutting, because he clearly was, and I think this is an underrated quality, and now we're getting to see it in full light. And I can't wait for that documentary, by the way, the one that I think it's Box to Box, right? The same production company that did Drive to Survive for F1 on Netflix. They're doing that documentary for Apple, so I can't wait to see those behind the scenes. But guys, he was clearly an emotional leader in that locker room, especially amongst the the Hispanic speaking, the Latino speaking Latino players. Him and Martin, like they were like papas, right? They were taking care of Diego, your Ricky Puches, your Emilio Garces, etc. I mean, you can see just even in the reactions, Ricky saying right away, "This is not the way." ... Julian, of course, just saying, just thank you.
Strong reactions.
And Dieguito, right? So I mean, it's clear like the bond that these guys had within the locker room. So I think that part is going to be difficult. That's not to say we can't replicate that, but I think those bonds, those human connections, I think those are hard to replicate. You can't put math or numbers around that. That's just something special that's born in championship teams. That's the hardest part of this, I think.
Yeah, no, Ricky spoke about it. I mean, he did have the initial reaction, "This is not the way," but I believe yesterday or the day before, he put out a long post. I mean, Katia, you said you were checking Ricky's socials, so you might have seen this. And he spoke about those intangibles, about how it wasn't even just him as a player, but that he was there for as a friend. In the darkest moments and moments when he had doubt, he was there to kind of like push them up, and like you said, kind of like a papa for these younger players. So está medio gacho como se fue, but that's the business side of this league, right? Because like Katia said, this red tape exists. So I mean, Galaxy had no way to keep Gaston Brugman and then go about addressing the needs of the roster, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But, like Katia was saying, we get someone in return. So we got to talk about this guy. So, I mean, I'm sure all Galaxy fans.
New G, bro.
G. Once a G, always G, right? But of course, I'm sure everyone in chat, everyone listening is wondering who Sean Davis is. I mean, Katia just mentioned him. He's a very, very different type of midfielder. He's more combative. Has a lot more defensive qualities. He's got an engine on him. He is, I believe he is 30 or he's turning 30. So he is on he's sort of that side of his career. But I did pull up some stats. Katia, I am the unofficial stats guy of this pod. So yes, I do try to help my colleagues as much as possible. But if you look at the stats, guys, I mean, I just want to preface this with this. This is I would say a not positively looking chart if you are an LA Galaxy fan, because if you look at Brugman's, this is, by the way, this is just the FBref sort of pie charts from their stats in the 2024 season. So that's last season. I mean, if you look at Gaston, we know how good he is on the ball. He's a good ball progressor. I mean, he's in the 90th percentile of all those passing stats, right? But if you look at Sean Davis, I mean, guys, that's just I don't need to tell you anything to analyze that pie chart. I mean, it's not looking good. The only thing that I will say, though, he is, if you look on the defensive side, you look at stuff like clearances, blocks, aerial duels, etc. That's the type of player that he is. And if you look, even I did a look back to his seasons with the Red Bulls, his first couple of seasons with Nashville. He is that type of player, very, very combative. And so, Rob, I think that's the player that we're getting. Now, of course, everyone balked when they saw that his salary was very similar to Gaston Brugman's, he's, due over $1 million. But of course, some of that is going to be retained by Nashville. So we are getting him on a quote unquote discount. But again, Rob, this is a very interesting move by Will Kuntz. And I think I just want to add this. I was trying to put myself in their shoes because when I looked at this on paper, it didn't make sense to me, right? But maybe when Will Kuntz and the staff are looking at the composition of this midfield, they look at profiles. What are they missing? One of the things they're missing, Rob, is actually height. Sean Davis is actually a 6-foot midfielder, right? So if you look at, combating aerial threats and things like that, something that the Galaxy were weak on last year, that's something to look at there. The other thing is we're missing, other than Edwin Cerrillo, we don't have a true DM. So maybe Will Kuntz and Greg Vanney are saying, give me a different type of profile in that midfield. Give me a more defensive-minded midfielder with an engine, and have that, so we can play that card in certain games. Remember, Rob, you guys just mentioned it. We are in many competitions next year. You look at those cup competitions, they're usually tight, they're usually cagey, more physical, especially with teams in Liga MX, etc. So maybe that's what we're looking at.
Very physical matches.
Maybe Will is saying, hey, I'm looking at that midfield. It looks a little lightweight. Let me add more steel, physicality, etc. So, I'm going to that's where my head is right now. But the other thing that I'll say too is, guys, watch the chess pieces after this. What are the moves that Kuntz is going to make after this? And so we can fully analyze this move in isolation, because I think in isolation, it's a tough one.
Katia, what'd you think about this this deal here? Gaston Brugman for Sean Davis and a conditional $100K. Did the Galaxy lose this deal, or like Ananda said, was it necessitated by this whole financial red tape that they have?
No, it was a necessity, like we said, because of the financial aspect of it all. So you're losing a leader and someone that was very important for the team, but he gave you an MVP performance for that 6th championship, and that will always be part of the team's history. And now I like what Ananda was saying about what Sean Davis will bring to the table. And I think it's a very important point, because when you have those competitions, you're going to have a reliable guy that's going to give you that depth, and it's going to give you other characteristics that will be much needed when it comes to those more physical competitions. And it's a great point, because you only had Edwin, you only had a guy like that in Edwin, and you're going to need more of it when you think about the opponents that you will be facing. So I think that having that shield and just providing strength for the back line, it's going to be much needed. And we saw it throughout the season where the offense was absolutely brilliant, but the defensive side of it was still lacking. So I think,
right,
that's going to be important going forward.
Yeah, guys, it's unfortunate. It's definitely sad, and it's ugly, and no one likes it. Katia and I covered Gaston. We're lucky enough to meet him as not just a player, as a man, and he was always very gracious with his time, always very nice, always very positive. So it's very unfortunate.
Also,
but I mean,
because sorry, I just thought
go ahead.
because of the comments, and I think that's a great point. When a player gets that confidence from a team, from the coach, you see a completely different version. And McCarthy spoke about that. And I think with Davis, it's going to be the case, because at Nashville, it was a reality of things that he wasn't fitting into what BJ wanted for that team when they had a coaching change. And Davis wasn't getting like minutes in those last games with Nashville. So now coming into a team where right off the bat that you're wanted and that you're going to have like an important role according to the aspirations and the competitions and the things that are coming with that team, I think that's also going to be important for a player like that. And then he'll want to respond because he's getting that vote of confidence.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say one last point I'm gonna add to that too is because like you, Katia, the comments triggered a thought. Potter says by the pie chart it looks like a downgrade. Remember this though, guys. If you're looking at the composition in the midfield, everyone's gonna say, this guy has no ball playing ability. He can't pass the ball. He has no progressive passes. But you combine that with technical leaders on the pitch, like a Ricky Puig, like a Edwin Cerrillo, like even a Mark Delgado, right? You combine that, and now the sort of that midfield trio has a lot of complementary pieces. And I think that's how we should look at this. Not so much a replacement, but more of a complement to what we already have.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have pretty much said it all about Sean Davis. I mean, he's just a different type of midfielder. Don't expect him to play those line spinning passes like Gaston, but Gaston's a different type of midfielder. He instantly becomes Nashville's best midfielder, I think, in stepping into the lineup. And for Sean Davis, he gets to come to the MLS Cup champions. But imagine, how he feels. I mean, like you guys both said, I mean, he's going to feel wanted now because he's going to know, damn, this team gave up MLS Cup MVP for me, right? So I better go and deliver. And I mean, hopefully for him and for Galaxy fans, he does come and deliver. But yeah, I mean, that's breaks. I mean, yeah, the Galaxy did maybe get the a little bit shorter end of the stick on the deal, but again, it was a move that they needed to make. It was necessitated, and so I mean, in that way, I think they do win some of this deal because they accomplished what they needed to in getting rid of a high salary, maybe not the piece that they wanted to, but now they have some flexibility. But guys, we're going to start wrapping it up here. So we initially wanted to bring Katia on, and when I was telling her about when we wanted to have you on, like what we would be covering, initially I let you know, like, hey, yeah, we're going to be covering the most memorable moments of the Galaxy season, and then all this news started dropping, so we were like, well, we can't really hit that because there's important stuff to talk about, like Gaston, but we do want to know maybe like one favorite moment from the Galaxy season in 2024. Maybe it could even be a Gaston one if you have it. But yeah, what was your favorite season? What was your favorite moment of the season this year?
I mean, I'd say like 3 key moments that recap the season. So one was the opener against Miami. I think that showed a lot about what this team was made of in terms of just character, attitude. I just loved Edwin's performance there, just like raising his hand and being like, I'm not going to be intimidated, even if it's Lionel Messi in front of me. Like, this is my home field, this is my team, and I'm going to protect it. So I think it showed a lot about the makeup of this team. Another one I'd say was Marco Roy's debut. I think it just showed what he was going to bring to the table in terms of his experience, his mentality, that it was something that needed to be addressed. And they went and got a player with his just pedigree and ability. And then he proved right off the bat what he could do on the field and the connections that he could have with someone like Ricky and the rest of the offense. So I think that showed at like the mid season, just addressing those needs, and the team was still going in that trajectory. And then of course just like that playoff run and then the championship moment, of course, just getting to see a team lift a trophy at home, and then it being the winningest team in MLS and getting that 6th championship is just like being able to witness like MLS history, and it's just being there with the atmosphere that we saw at the stadium. I think that was very special.
Anandita, go ahead and give us one, man.
Yeah, those are some good ones. So I'm just going to only add to and again, we talked about this when we had the pod with Simply Soccer with Christian. That Edwin Cerrillo bombazo in the El Tráfico, man, that 4-2. I mean, like I mentioned in that pod, I hadn't other than the Seattle, that goal, that Dayon goal with the 1-0 at the Western Conference Final, that was the loudest pop that I heard in that stadium all season long. I mean, when that goal went in, it was wow. It was just electric, right? And I'm pretty sure the adrenaline, just the energy from the crowd. I think that fed into the other 2 goals that, of course, LAFC had a red card as well in that game. But and by the way, shout out to Leo. He says Jalen standing over Bouanga in that 4-2. That was nice as well. Just kind of standing our ground, just making sure that, hey guys, we're here. We're not going to be pushed around by our noisy neighbors anymore. Exactly.
You mentioned the Simply Soccer Pod. Shout out Christian, Michelle. I'm gonna call out the one that I did there. It was actually 2 games. They were very unremarkable, but they were big in what the Galaxy accomplished. These were all the way back in March. This was the come from behind victory against Sporting Kansas City away. Mark Delgado gets the winning goal, and then a week later, they beat Seattle 1-0 at the Digs in a very chippy, physical game. It was rainy. The field was soggy. Galaxy couldn't really play their football, but they got it done. And that was the first win over Seattle, I believe, since 2018 or 2019, something like that. It had been a long, long time. So in that week, they showed me, guys, that the mentality was there for MLS Cup run, and then, hey, call me brujo, but then it happened. So
yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, the top moments of this year, Rob, for me, honestly, has been every time that there has been a voodoo or a hex or a stat that says we have not won in this place since X year, right? In 8 years or 6 years. And we get the 3 points. And it's like those little moments and that was the magic of the 2024 Galaxy team, right? Which is they overcame all the hurdles, all the adversity. Shout out to Greg and the coaching staff and just the mentality of these players. That's something that we are not used to, especially in the last decade of doom, right? But in the 2024 version of this team, man, that was, for me, that was like a top moment every single time, that this team has the guts, the mentality, the will, of course, and the talent, right, to overcome these hurdles.
Well, that was the 2024 team, guys. Things are starting to change already. So Katia, you know how we do on this pod. We always, well, not always, but a lot of the time we ask for a prediction. If it's a game preview, we definitely ask for a prediction. But in this case, since there's no game to preview at the moment, we're going to ask you a bigger prediction here. As currently constructed, without, knowing who they might bring in or anything like that, do you think the Galaxy has enough in their locker to A, repeat as MLS Cup champions, or B, win a title in any competition this year?
Oh, definitely win a title in any competition. They do have a good roster, and I believe they can fight for a title, and they're going to have plenty of opportunities to do so. So I do believe they have a shot. Then, of course, we don't know what other teams will do and what the Galaxy will bring. I mean, they're going to look to just strengthen the team, but I believe that the tables have turned for the organization after difficult years and everything they endured, and then just, seeing this other side going back to winning ways. I think, since Will got there, he's done a phenomenal job, and he's a phenomenal guy. So in him and Greg, of course, as well. Greg is a great coach, so they found the formula, and I think they're just going to keep on building on that.
Anandita, same question for you, and then give us your last word, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I've said it before. By the way, it's a way too early prediction, Rob. So you're putting us on the spot. I just wanted to call that out. But
I'm like I said about segues. Go ahead, I'll finish up, and then I'll get to that.
Fair, but yeah, no, I think I think it's going to be really hard to repeat. Like I said, I'm going to say no at this moment, but again, that's just because there's too many ifs, ands, and buts. The biggest wild card, as I've said before, is how is Riqui Puig going to return? Right, that's the biggest question, and unless we know what that looks like, it's hard to give that prediction. Even if he comes back at full strength, again, we've talked about all the major competitions are happening probably before August or finishing before August, and that's around the timetable of Riqui Puig is coming back. So without having him, a DP player in that midfield, it's going to be very hard to progress and advance in these competitions. Wilkins is going to have to make a lot more moves for us to be, for us to advance and progress in those finals or those competitions. So I think for me, I'm going to say no. but I have a right to reserve to change my opinion, Rob, as always.
No on MLS Cup repeating, or no on winning any trophy, or both?
Either at this point. Yeah,
Ooh.
either at this point. Yeah.
Ooh,
I'm gonna be a pessimist, but hey, like I said, historically speaking, too, in the history of MLS, it's very difficult to do on top of all this fixture congestion, man. So again, I have the right to change my opinion. We'll see.
Well, you do have the right to change your opinion. Like you said, it is very, very early. We don't know what these rosters will look like. But like I said, I do love a segue, and that's guys, we're on a Monday schedule until shortly before the CVI. So next week, hang with us, where we're going to give you our way, way, way too early predictions for next year. And you guys can go ahead and cancel us and bring back receipts later in the year if you want. But that's what these pods are good for, right? Just to kind of spout off on some stuff and see if something sticks. Like I already gave you one. I think Ricky Puig is coming back either against Seattle or against Inter Miami the next week. Like Katia said, it would just be lights out if he was able to return at home against Seattle. Imagine the pop in that stadium. Imagine the vitriol towards Christian Roldan if that happens, guys. But that's one of my way too early predictions. But next week we will have way too early predictions for you on the 30th. So stick with us next Monday, guys. We want to thank Katia Castorena for being here with us. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. It was a lovely time. Open invitation whenever you want to come back and talk some ball with us.
Gracias por invitarme. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And of course, we will see each other throughout the season.
Yeah, we will.
Muchas gracias por venir.
Hopefully a title defense. But Anandita, anything else to add before we get on out of here?
Nope. Just a really quick happy holidays to everyone. Feliz Navidad. Merry Christmas. Hope you guys spend some really, really good quality time with your loved ones. And as the great Kevin Campbell, rest in peace, always said, make sure you tell your loved ones you love them.
Yeah, absolutely. From our Lacuna family to your family, all you G's, please be well. Please be good to each other, love each other. Remember, your LA Galaxy already brought you the best present this year, the 6th MLS Cup in their history. You are champions. Act like it, carry yourselves like it, and love each other. Like I said, from our family to yours, we love you guys. Thank you for sticking with us. One thing left to say.
Peace, kindness, happy holidays.
Exactly. Love, peace, and kindness, y'all. And then finishing up here with one final, or actually we have one more. So I won't spoil it, but we do have tonight's. One thing left to say. G's up. Thanks, y'all.